It was the second week of December when I got the call. Marla, my younger sister, who hadn't so much as sent a birthday card in 3 years, suddenly wanted to take me and Mom on a luxury Christmas trip to Napa Valley. Her voice was bright, too bright. "Shelly," she said, "I've already booked everything. It's my gift to you both. A real family bonding experience. You know, before time runs out. Before time runs out." That one got to me. She knew how to pick her words, how to dig into guilt like a professional. Our mother, bless her heart, was beside herself with joy. She kept talking about how this would be the Christmas to finally bring us back together. "It's been too long, honey," she said. "Maybe this is our second chance." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe Marla had changed, but I didn't trust Easy, not anymore. Years of small betrayals, silent debts, and emotional booby traps had worn down my optimism. Still, I nodded. "Okay, I'll come." "But just to be clear, everything's covered, right?" I asked Marla directly. "All on me," she said, laughing. "You think I'd ask my big sis to pay on her own Christmas trip?" That laugh, it stuck with me. There was something off about how it hung in the air, almost mocking. But I went. For Mom's sake. And maybe, just maybe, for that sliver of hope that this time would be different. We landed in Napa Valley on a crisp Wednesday afternoon. The resort was the kind you see in magazines. White columns, ivy-covered walls, staff in polished uniforms. Too much. It looked like money you could smell. From the start, things didn't sit right. The receptionist smiled at me a little too directly when we checked in. "Welcome, Mrs. Dalton. Everything's arranged under your name. Your card's on file, of course." My card. I blinked but said nothing. Marla was beside me, tapping her nails on the counter like she had somewhere better to be. "Told you it was handled," she whispered. Throughout the day, she floated through the resort like she owned it. Spa bookings, private wine tastings, filet mignon delivered to our suite before she even asked. She kept saying things like, "Don't worry about the cost. This is about experience." Every time I tried to question a detail, she'd wave me off. "Relax, Shelly. You overthink everything." But I noticed. I noticed how she dodged when I asked who actually made the reservations. I noticed the bill folder disappear too quickly after every service. And I noticed how the staff always seemed to look at me, not her, when money was mentioned. Still, I kept quiet. I didn't want to ruin Mom's glow. She hadn't smiled this much in years. If this trip meant keeping that light alive for a few more days, I could play along. At least until I knew for sure. That night, back in my room, I plugged in my phone and saw the alerts. First one, then 3 more, then a dozen. My credit card had been charged nearly $30,000 in less than 24 hours. Charges from the resort, spa, dining, wine cellar. My breath caught. I sat there, blinking at the screen, my heart thudding in my chest. I hadn't swiped that card. Not once. I never even handed it to the front desk. But they had it. I tore through my wallet, pulled up my banking app, and confirmed it. Every transaction was real. Every cent tied to me. I gripped the phone like it might answer the questions spinning in my head. How? Then it clicked. Marla had all my info. She's borrowed from me before, just to get back on her feet. Maybe she'd saved a card number. Maybe she booked the whole trip under my name and never planned to tell me. I stared at the ceiling, the kind of silence that screams in your ears. And it hit me. This wasn't a gift. I was the gift, the sucker footing the bill. Memories came rushing in every time she made me feel like the stable one, the boring one, the overachiever, and every time I let her guilt me into silence. Not this time. That night, I knocked on her door, and what she said chilled me. I stood outside her door with my phone still lit up in my hand. The numbers hadn't changed. Over $30,000 charged to my card. My name, my debt. I'd walked this hallway hundreds of times in my mind, imagining this exact confrontation, but every other time, I'd backed down. For Mom, for the sake of peace, for the idea of family. But not tonight. I knocked, firm, deliberate, no hesitation, no soft entry. Marla opened the door halfway, her hair pulled back, silk robe tied like she'd just stepped out of a commercial. "Seriously?" she muttered. This couldn't wait till morning? I lifted my phone, screen glowing. Did you use my card? She blinked. Then that look came over her face, the one she wore when she got caught as a kid but already had the lie prepared. What are you talking about? I took a step closer. My card. All the charges. This resort, the wine, the spa. It's all on my account. Marla sighed like I was inconveniencing her. I thought you were okay with it. You never said no, and you always say things like, do what needs to be done for Mom. So I did. You stole my card, Marla. She crossed her arms, then looked away like I was being dramatic. Don't twist this into something it's not. You're always so uptight, always looking for a reason to turn things into courtroom drama. This is theft, she laughed. Oh, come on, it's family. We're supposed to help each other. Mom's happy, isn't she? You really want to ruin that over some receipts? I stood there, mouth dry, heart thudding. She wasn't just denying it. She was twisting it, rewriting the moment while I was still living it. She stepped aside and motioned for me to come in. Against my better judgment, I walked into her suite. It was spotless, controlled, like she was performing for someone. You know what your problem is? She said, pouring herself a glass of wine she didn't pay for. You always need to be right. You always have to have the moral high ground. It's exhausting. I stared at her, gripping the back of a chair to stay grounded. You never let things slide, she added. That's why people can't relax around you. That's why you're alone. That last one landed, but I held on. I remembered something a therapist once told me. People who cross boundaries often rely on your silence. And I'd been silent long enough. I turned and left without another word. The sky outside was barely beginning to lighten. I couldn't sleep, couldn't sit still, couldn't even finish a glass of water. My phone buzzed again. This time, a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Ms. Dalton, this is James from your bank's fraud department. My breath caught. Yes, I'm here. We're calling to confirm a series of transactions on your card ending in 1142. Can you verify these charges at Napa Valley Resort? No. I didn't authorize any of it. We have confirmation that the card was swiped in person by an individual named Marla Dalton, not a system error. It matches previous usage patterns. We'll need to initiate a formal fraud claim. I want the card frozen immediately, I said, voice steady. Yes, ma'am, we'll begin the claim. A full investigation will follow. I thanked him, hung up, and just stood there, phone pressed against my chest like it could muffle everything pounding inside me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was orchestrated. She didn't stumble into this. She built it. And it wasn't the first time. I thought back, little things, that lost rent check years ago. The car loan she said she paid off. The apartment lease where I mysteriously ended up as guarantor. They weren't accidents. They were steps. Steps she took because she knew I'd flinch and then forgive. Not anymore. By late morning, the resort's restaurant was filled with soft clinking and polite conversation. I walked in, hair tied back, no makeup, phone off. Marla was already seated with Mom, laughing like she hadn't detonated a bomb the night before. She waved me over, her smile too wide. Morning, sunshine. You look tired. Sleep okay? I pulled out the chair and sat. Fine. Mom was cutting into a waffle, beaming. It's been so lovely, hasn't it? Like the old days. Marla poured syrup like she was performing for a brunch crowd. I watched her fingers, steady and deliberate. Then I said it. Calm, clear. Did you know Marla booked this whole trip on my card? The fork stopped in midair. Silence. Just the clink of a spoon in a teacup nearby. Mom looked between us. What? Shelly, I thought Marla said. But before she could finish, Marla dropped her fork. Then she smiled. Well, she said, voice like ice wrapped in sugar. I guess we're finally telling the truth. I left the resort before anyone else stirred. No goodbyes, no coffee, no second look. Just the hum of the engine, and the road stretched ahead like a long sigh. My hands stayed at 10 and 2, steady on the wheel, though my thoughts were anything but. Somewhere around Vallejo, I remembered the first time Marla called me the strong one. I was 19, working 2 jobs, paying my way through college. She'd dropped out the year before, and Mom called crying, saying Marla was pregnant and scared. I wired what I had. Marla sent a card with glitter on it. "You're the strong one," she wrote. It sounded sweet then. Now it felt like a leash. The miles kept rolling by, and with them the receipts in my head started stacking. The times I paid for Dad's meds when his insurance lapsed. Mom's radiator blew the week before her birthday. I covered that too. Marla's daughter needed a tuition deposit to hold her college spot. "Just until Friday," she said. That Friday turned into never. A memory hit like a punch. Thanksgiving, 6 years ago. Grocery lines stretched behind me, cart full, people shifting from foot to foot. My card declined. Twice. I didn't panic. I assumed a glitch until I remembered. Marla had just needed gas. Never told me she'd maxed it. I smiled at the cashier, paid with my emergency fund, told myself it was just another family favor. I never got the money back. Never even asked. I wasn't just covering bills. I was financing their illusion that I could handle anything, that my silence was consent, that I didn't need help. As I pulled off the highway, I found myself in front of an old roadside motel. Same gravel lot, same buzzing vending machine by the office door. I didn't plan to stop. It was like the car took me there on its own. A memory drifted in. Marla, sobbing in room 107 after her ex threw her out. I'd driven over with burgers and a blanket. She didn't say thank you. Just said, "You're always good in a crisis." That night, I sat with her, listening to her rehash the relationship like it was a play she forgot her lines in. I offered silence, tea, my entire evening. She took it all. This time, I didn't get out of the car. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from my supervisor. "Hey, Shelly, any chance you're up for New Year's Eve coverage? Double time. Let me know." I didn't delete it. I didn't respond either. Driving away from that motel, I didn't feel strong. I felt awake. Later that night, I let myself into my apartment. The stillness hit me first. No laughter, no footsteps, no guilt thick in the air. Just the soft click of the lock behind me. On the counter, a letter sat unopened. White envelope, bold red stamp. Past due. I peeled it open like it might explode. Credit card statement. Total due, $121,304.667. I exhaled, then started pulling more envelopes from my drawer. Bills. All of them. Stacked in quiet accusation. I laid them out across the table. Electricity, water, internet, my rent, Marla's bail from 3 years ago. I'd co-signed, never paid back. I made a list. 1 line for every transaction. 1 line for every lie. And then, I kept going. The promotion I turned down because Mom needed help after surgery. The vacation I canceled to watch Marla's kid. Friends I stopped calling because family came first. My journal filled with a kind of clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wrote, not for revenge, but for release. My ex once told me, "You're the responsible one." Said it like a medal. I wore it like a weight. That responsibility cost me time, joy, softness. I'd been paying interest on it for decades. Around 2 a.m., I climbed into bed, exhausted but clear-headed. My phone buzzed again, a text from Marla. "I know you're mad. Let me know when you're ready to be sisters again." No apology, no ownership, just another invoice with no return address. I sat up, walked to the bathroom, flipped the light on. My face looked older than I remembered, not broken, just used. I stared at myself, then back down at the phone. I didn't reply. I deleted the message and whispered into the mirror. This time, I'll let the silence answer for me. There was a knock on the suite door, 3 soft taps, spaced like she had all the time in the world. I didn't answer right away. I stood there, facing that door, knowing exactly who it was and exactly how it would play out. I opened it. Marla stood there with a wine glass in one hand and that same smug tilt to her chin. She didn't look sorry, didn't even pretend to be rattled. "Well, are you gonna make me stand out here like we're strangers?" I stepped aside. "Come in." She walked past me like she owned the room, settled on the couch, and crossed her legs. I sat across from her, grabbed the manila folder from the table, and laid it open. Recognize any of these? Her eyes flicked to the pages, credit card statements, circled charges, dates that didn't match up to my schedule, room service, boutique items, a spa tab that made my stomach turn. She blinked, played dumb. What's this about? Don't do that, I said flat. She leaned back, swirling her wine like we were gossiping, not unraveling years of built-up tension. Shelly, if this is about a few charges, come on, we're family. Why are you making it a federal case? When did you take my wallet? She didn't answer right away. That pause, that tiny flicker, gave her away. Then came the excuses. I was under pressure, okay? You think it's easy being me? Everyone expects me to have it all together. I had nothing left to lean on. So you leaned on me, I said, without asking. You wouldn't understand. You're always the strong one. I let that sit in the air for a moment. Then I leaned forward and looked her straight in the eye. You don't get to steal strength, Marla. You build it. Her face changed, not shame, just rage that I didn't play along. 15 minutes later, the room was heavier than when she'd walked in. She hadn't apologized. Not once. She called it a family matter. Tried to flip it on me, said Mom would be heartbroken if she knew I was acting like this. Is Mom proud of this? I asked. Or just blind? She rolled her eyes. You're always cold, Shelly. No one can talk to you without feeling judged. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. I sat there frozen in place, not because I doubted what I was doing, but because somewhere in the back of my head, a little voice whispered, maybe you made it so easy to rely on you, they stopped thinking you had limits or feelings. I reached for my phone. I'm freezing all the cards right now. Marla's mouth dropped open. You'll regret this. No, I said. I've already spent years regretting not doing it sooner. She grabbed her purse and stormed out without another word, but right at the door, she turned and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, You think you're better than everyone, but you're just alone. And then she was gone. That night, I sat out on the balcony. The ocean was just a sound in the dark. The stars stretched like they'd always been there, waiting for someone to notice. I let myself cry, not from weakness, from relief. I remembered that one Christmas, years ago, when I stayed behind, said I had work, while Marla went to Aspen with her friends. I'd sent her money for her flights, for her ski gear. I told myself I didn't mind. But I did. I minded a lot. Because it was never about the money. It was about what it meant to them. That I was always the one who could be left behind. Forgotten, used, and then excused. I could still hear voices from the past echoing in my head. Family forgives everything. But does it? If it only protects the one who lied. If it keeps letting them do it again? I stared up at the stars. So sharp and honest in their distance. You only see clearly in the dark. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I checked out of the resort. No drama. Just calm, practiced movements. At the front desk, I left a note. Charge the rest to room 413. The clerk gave me a look. That's your sister's suite? Yes, I said. She'll understand. Outside, the air was clean, cool enough to wake me up in the best kind of way. As I waited for the shuttle, I saw him again. The older gentleman I'd talked to before. He gave me a nod, the kind that says, You're not crazy. You're just done. You found your edge, he said. I didn't lose my temper, I told him. Just stopped holding theirs. He smiled. The shuttle pulled up. I stepped on, set my bag down, found a window seat. As we started to pull away, I leaned my head back. Then a staff member ran toward the van, waving something. Ma'am, wait, you forgot this. He handed me a small package through the window. Brown paper. My room number scrawled across it in black pen. She said you never owned it, he added. Your sister said it wasn't yours to begin with. The door shut. The wheels turned. I stared down at that package, light, too light, but it carried more weight than anything I'd packed. Morning cracked through the blinds, and the first thing I saw on my laptop screen was her name, Adela Stone. My mother's email came in like a cold slap across the face. Shelly, I'm disappointed in the choices you've made. I had hoped we could handle this privately. Marla has suffered enough. Please don't escalate this any further. I trust you'll show restraint and maturity and not add to the embarrassment this has already caused our family. Not a question in sight, just assumptions, veiled threats, and that signature, Adela, in the same elegant script that once signed my report cards. I stared at it, heart beating like I'd been caught sneaking out. But I hadn't done anything wrong. I just told the truth. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to reply, but I didn't. There was no point. The words in that email weren't new. They were just recycled guilt, reshaped to make silence look noble. For as long as I could remember, any time Marla twisted something, my mother stepped in with that same calm voice. She's just having a hard time. Or, don't make this worse. But now I was the problem. I was the one making it worse. I closed the lid of the laptop, let the email sit. Late morning turned into early afternoon, and the air in the apartment grew heavier. I hadn't eaten, just paced. My phone buzzed on the counter. Marla. I didn't want to answer, but I did. She popped up on screen all smiles, like we were catching up over coffee. Hey sis, so I've got a little something that'll help bring this mess to an end. I didn't say anything. I waited. She clicked her tongue and tilted her head. It's not an ultimatum, just a way forward for both of us. Then came the email. Subject line, Stone Family Contract of Resolution, 3 pages. No public statements regarding family disputes, no legal action. No interference with family-held assets or investments. All disputes to be handled internally and confidentially. My chest tightened. You want me to sign this? I said. It's just a formality, she replied. Mom and I think it's best for everyone. No more drama. Who wrote this? A friend of Mom's. Been with the firm 30 years. And what happens if I don't sign? She shrugged. Then we're back to the chaos. But come on, Shelly. Isn't peace worth more than pride? I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat like glass. Peace doesn't come with a gag order. Marla's smile faded. This is for your benefit, too. No, it's not. Her voice sharpened. You've always had a problem following rules. And you've always had a problem telling the truth. Silence. Tension crackled through the screen like static. Then I hung up. I couldn't sit still after that. I needed air. I needed sense. I needed someone outside this mess. By late afternoon, I was back in my office, blinds drawn, laptop open, contract pulled up again. I called Silas Reed. He answered on the second ring. Shelly? I need help, I said. Legal help. I forwarded the contract while we stayed on the call. He skimmed fast. This isn't just manipulative, it's enforceable. If you sign, you're giving up your right to speak, to sue, even to ask questions about where family money's going. Can we fight it? He leaned back, voice calm. If you sign it, not really. If you don't, then yes. We start with a countersuit, emotional coercion, fraud, financial misrepresentation. We pull emails, financial statements, witness accounts. I don't want a public war. He didn't sugarcoat it. Then don't start one. But if they've already drawn the lines, you don't get to choose the battlefield. Only whether you'll stand there or kneel. I nodded slowly. Then I stand. We set a plan. File preliminary challenges. Subpoena accounts. Start digging. As the sun dipped low, the city turned orange and quiet. The chaos of the day gave way to stillness again. Back in my room, I sat at the edge of the bed, phone in hand, scrolling through missed texts. One new message. No name. No picture. Don't make me embarrass you publicly. My skin crawled. I didn't need to guess who sent it. That tone, that edge masked as concern. Marla's fingerprints all over it. I locked the phone, tossed it to the side, and let the room be silent again. Then I walked to my desk. The contract was still sitting there, half crumpled from where I'd held it too tightly. I smoothed it out, looked at that signature line again. Blank. I opened my laptop, opened a new document, typed the words slowly, each one heavier than the last. I declined to sign. I woke up in silence. No distant hum of a familiar refrigerator, no creak from the hallway outside my old room. Just the soft thud of my heartbeat and the thin light slipping through unfamiliar curtains. It was the first morning in my new apartment. Nothing fancy, just enough space to breathe. I didn't decorate much. A fold-out table, one chair, a coffee pot. But this place was mine. No memories embedded in the walls, no eyes judging me from across a family dinner table. I took a breath and let it fill all the empty corners. Silas arrived an hour later, coffee in one hand and a laptop in the other. We sat on the floor, still no couch, and reviewed everything. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, scrolling through files. "I've never been more sure," he leaned back. "When you go public, it's not just them you'll deal with. Family splits, friends choose sides. Some might say you're bitter or lying." I didn't flinch. "They already think I am." We went over the steps again. A formal complaint, legal filing, forensic audit. The truth wouldn't just come out. It'd be documented, time-stamped, sealed. I marked the calendar. Saturday, 3 days from now, the evidence would go live. No more whispers, no more warnings. Later that day, Marla sent a text. "Family meeting, Mom's request, be there." It was short, too polite to be genuine. I didn't reply. But I showed up. Her house hadn't changed. The same photos on the wall, her kids' drawings still magneted to the fridge, like the world had stayed frozen while mine kept cracking. Inside, a few familiar faces had already gathered. Cousin Rachel, Uncle Tom, even Aunt Denise, who I hadn't seen in years, all watching me like I carried a ticking bomb in my purse. Marla greeted me at the door with a practiced smile. "Thanks for coming." Mom wanted peace. Adela sat in the middle of the room, hands folded tight in her lap, her face unreadable. We took our seats. Marla spoke first. "I didn't want it to come to this," she began, voice soft, almost trembling. "Shelly's been confused, hurt, obviously, and I admit, I haven't always been the perfect sister." She paused, let the performance breathe. "But to accuse me of theft, of manipulating the family, that's not just wrong, it's cruel. Maybe she misremembered. Maybe grief twisted things, but this campaign she's starting—" "Stop." My voice was low, but it cut clean through. Everyone turned. I reached into my bag, pulled out the small USB stick. My fingers didn't shake. Not anymore. "I'd like everyone to hear something." I plugged it into the speaker system beneath the TV. Pressed play. Marla's voice echoed through the room, recorded weeks earlier during a call she never thought I'd keep. Of course I used her card. She wasn't even paying attention, and by the time she figured it out, I had everything rerouted. She's too proud to admit she didn't see it coming. A sharp gasp from the corner. Rachel dropped her tea. I kept going. Another clip, her laughing. "You think I'm worried about Shelly? Please, Mom always takes my side. She always has." Adela stood slowly, face pale. "Marla, what is this?" Emails flashed on the screen, bank transfers, the altered contract, her attempt to buy my silence dressed up as family resolution. Marla's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted to the floor, then back to mine. "That's out of context." "No," I said, steady. "That's the truth. You framed this as my fault, but you lied. You stole. You gambled on the idea that no one would believe me." She stood up, angry now. "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I replied. "You did that the moment you thought I wouldn't fight back." The room sat in silence. Some couldn't meet my eyes. Others did, and nodded. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the truth. And starting Saturday, the world gets to see it too." Marla turned away. Adela didn't stop her. After the crowd dispersed, the house felt hollow. I lingered near the back hallway, where the air still smelled like cinnamon potpourri and guilt. I heard her crying. A door half closed, her bedroom. I stepped toward it, then stopped. No more confrontations. No more desperate hope she'd own it. I scribbled a note on a scrap of paper and slid it under her door. I forgive you, or I leave. Now it's your choice. I turned to go. As I passed the tree in the corner, I saw something hanging, an ornament I gave her when we were kids. A little ceramic bird, wing-chipped, still tied with the same faded ribbon. It swayed gently as I walked past. At the door, I paused. My phone buzzed, a blocked number. Then, my name. The living room was full again. The air didn't just feel heavy, it pressed on your chest. You could tell folks weren't there to chat or catch up. They came for blood or truth, maybe both. Marla stood in front, back straight, voice polished like she was still in control. There's been a lot of confusion, misinterpretations, emotions running high, she began, like she was the one holding the high ground. I sat quiet. You all know me. You know what I stand for. I've always put family first. A few nods, mostly silence. Then, from the corner of the room, a soft voice cut through. I've known what you've done, Marla. It was Aunt Ruth. Quiet. Always in the background. But not today. Marla blinked. Excuse me? Ruth stood. You remember those months Shelly was covering your electric bill? The time your daughter had surgery? Who paid the deductible? That got a reaction. Heads turned. Adela shifted uncomfortably. I didn't say anything, Ruth continued, because I figured maybe you'd step up, say thank you, own it. But instead, you made her the villain. Marla's face lost color. That's not true. She insisted. Don't, Ruth cut in. She didn't do it for applause. She did it because she loved you, and you used that. I didn't move, but inside something uncurled, something that had been braced too long. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. Later that evening, I followed the blocked calls trail. Turns out Marla was holed up in a rundown motel just outside town. I pulled into the gravel lot, cheap siding, a flickering vacancy sign, room 207. I knocked. She answered in a sweatshirt, no makeup, eyes puffy and red. Her voice was smaller now. You came to gloat? No. I reached into my pocket and held up the cracked Christmas ornament, the little tree we got as kids. You kept this, I said, but you forgot what it meant. Tears welled in her eyes. You took everything from me first. I didn't take anything. I just stopped letting you rewrite my story. Her hand clenched at her side. You wanted to be the good daughter, the martyr. You always needed to be right. No, I said, pulling my phone from my coat pocket, already recording. I just needed to be heard. Our argument wasn't loud, but the walls were thin. The motel manager lingered by the vending machines, ears wide open. A couple in the next room turned down their TV, and when she finally screamed, Fine, I used your card. I didn't think you'd even notice. It was like the room shook. I left before she could say more, before I could feel pity. The next morning, I walked into the church, not for God, but for reckoning. Word had spread. People watched me as I walked past pews. Some offered small nods. Others just stared. Ruth was already there. When the service ended, she stood up and cleared her throat. I know this isn't the time, but it's the place, she said. There's been talk, and some of it's true. She recounted what she said the day before. The bills, the recordings, the contract, a few gasps, a few looks to Adela, who sat frozen, not saying a word. Marla tried to rise, but the murmurs drowned her. It wasn't like that, she said weakly. You don't know everything. No, I interrupted, standing, but I know enough. My voice was calm, measured. I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to reclaim my name, and maybe remind a few people what silence costs. The room went still. Adela didn't raise her head. People turned away from Marla, not angrily, just done. And then, as if the weight finally cracked her bones, Marla collapsed to her knees. No one moved at first. Then a hand from the crowd reached out, soft, cautious, unsure. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I looked down. Unknown number. And it was calling my name. The phone buzzed again, that same unknown number. Still no voicemail, just a name that never showed up. Something in my gut said, answer it, and this time, I didn't talk myself out of it. Hello? Shelly. The voice was older, slower, familiar, but not recent. I didn't say anything. It's me. I heard about everything. Through the grapevine, I guess. I sat down at the kitchen table, sunlight pooling over my hand like the day had been waiting on this. I don't expect anything, he said. I just wanted you to know. I watched from afar. I know I don't have the right, but you, Shelly, you made it through. People like us, we come from cracks. Sometimes people break others because they're already broken. There was a long pause, the kind that feels like memory. He went on. You're not what happened to you. You're what you choose to become. Don't let them keep defining you. Not even me. Tears came. Not heavy ones. Just enough. Like finally hearing something that should have been said years ago, but still mattered now. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. For saying it. I'm proud of you, kid. You did what I never could. The call ended. No goodbye. Just silence. I didn't need more. Outside, the world looked possible again. I spent the next couple hours cleaning, folding, breathing, until Marla's name showed up on my phone. A text. Can we talk? No yelling, just talk. I met her at a quiet diner off the freeway, booth near the window, 2 waters between us, untouched. She looked smaller, less defensive. Thanks for meeting me. I nodded. No warmth, no cold. Just ready. I've been thinking, she said. About everything. I know I hurt you. She paused, hoping I'd fill the silence. I didn't. But you gotta see. I was trying to survive too. You always had it figured out. You were the one Mom bragged about. I didn't want to lose her to you. I watched her carefully. You didn't lose her to me. You gave her reasons to walk away from both of us. I just stopped chasing what was never mine. Marla blinked. This isn't about forgiveness, I added. It's about clarity. She reached into her purse and slid a small envelope across the table. This is everything I owe you. It's not enough. I picked it up, didn't open it, just held it. I don't need it, I said, but I'll take it, because closure has weight. She nodded, but her shoulders didn't lift. I left first, not in a hurry, not in anger, just done. Back at home, the sun was already leaning west. I turned on a soft jazz station, the kind Mom used to play before the fights. I stood in the middle of my living room, a box in one hand, a lighter in the other. Bank statements, the contract, printed emails. I burned them all, watching the edges curl and lift like old wounds letting go. Then I reached for a photo, me at age 7, standing in a field alone, smiling at no one. I hung it back on the wall, dead center. I sat down with my checkbook and wrote out a check. Pay to the order of Shelly. Amount, $120,000. Memo. Emotional reimbursement. I laughed, just once. Then I tore it out and pinned it beside the photo. A new message dinged. Job interview, Thursday at noon. And below that, a name I hadn't seen in years. Lisa. Just said, hey, you free to talk sometime? I looked at everything. Burned papers, check, childhood photo. Then out the window again, same as that morning. The future wasn't a place I feared anymore. It was mine.